Mike Leach is a college football Hall of Famer, and it shouldn't be a question. The win percentage thing, again, he fell one win short. And literally, if you just gave him the bowl game that State played that season after his passing, he hits the 60% threshold. So you didn't even have to make an adjustment. You literally could have just given him that game. But first of all, like the win percentage thing is so ridiculous. When you talk about a guy who accomplished what he did at Texas Tech, and this is Texas Tech pre-Cody Campbell, NIL, we're dropping $40 million on a football roster every year. That wasn't Texas Tech then. And building that program into what he did. And then you look at what he did at Washington State with the program that is at such a disadvantaged resource and recruiting-wise to practically everyone else in the Pac-12 and the success he was able to have there and turn them into a consistent 8-9 win team. And obviously delivered an 11-win season for the first time in program history there. And I didn't even say for Texas Tech. They were winning 9 games a year, and then, of course, has the season of 2008 where they got to 11 wins. And then at Mississippi State, obviously, he was not around long enough to have the sustained success, but put together a 9-win team his third season there at a program where 9 wins is a big deal. Leach coached at programs where going to a bowl game is usually a good season. Leach coached at programs where 8-4 is a really good year. And it's not reflective on his shortcomings as a coach that he did not win a conference, that he didn't win a national title. You coach where you coach, and the programs have the ceilings that they do. And he delivered above-average results at those programs all throughout his career. I've talked about this with Leach before. I don't know if I've really discussed it on this show. I really feel like Leach gets undervalued as a football coach. And what I mean by that is there is a tendency for a lot of us to talk about Leach in like the legend status, but almost as a meme, frankly, because he's the kooky old guy who will rant about mascots fighting and talk about weddings and talk about your fat little girlfriends. We think about the press conferences and all the funny sayings. And it's like this guy's the crazy fun uncle. And it's like, oh, and his offense throws the ball 60 times a game. Like he's just a crazy, funny, wacky dude. And that's all true. The guy knew how to run a football program at a high level. Like when you look into like the stuff that he would teach his assistant coaches when it came to leadership and coaching a team, the belief that he would instill into his teams about never giving up and playing as a team till the clock hit 0-0-0, doing your job, and like these things that we hear time and time again. And he was a brilliant offensive mind on top of that. It's and I know that feels obvious, but again, sometimes I think it's boiled down to, oh, they just threw the ball all over the place. Like when you actually hear Leach like breaking down scheme the few times that he does it, because he doesn't do it a lot. And obviously a lot of coaches can do that if you get them up on a whiteboard, that otherwise they don't become coaches. But you realize how much the guy, like the way he looked at the game was different. And the guy just really understood coaching teams at a high level and getting the most out of his teams and running quality programs. He was a damn good football coach on top of all the fun stuff we remember with him. And setting aside, I haven't even gotten into the historical precedent of why he absolutely deserves it, and we're going to get there. But, you know, setting that part of it aside, I should have had that up already. Like, the coaching acumen is absolutely there for him to have been a Hall of Famer already. The next part to it, though, is the impact on the game. Because if the Hall of Fame is supposed to represent the history of the sport, everybody uses the line, you can't tell the history of blank without so-and-so in the Hall of Fame. You quite literally cannot tell the history of football, not college football, not Texas Tech, not Washington State, not Mississippi State. You cannot tell the history of American football without Mike Leach. There are few, if any, coaches who were so impactful on the overall trajectory of the sport that Leach was. because what he was able to accomplish with that air raid offense at Texas Tech and the spread that it created, the resulting spread that came out of that, impacted literally every level of the sport. And I wrote a long piece on this a couple years back at Maroon White Nation, and I'm going to hit the big points on this now. Obviously, the air raid, like Hal Mumme invented the offense. Hal Mumme, I do feel bad sometimes for Hal because people forget that he is the guy who started the offense. He was the one who created it. And then it was with Leach alongside him that they really developed it and turned it into what it ultimately became. And Mumme had success with it. But Leach was also a better coach than Mumme. And Leach also took the offense in a different direction where he got it to a point where his players could just run it so well and execute it so well, and the success they were able to have with it far surpassed what Mumme was able to accomplish. And Mumme was one heck of a coach and a heck of an offensive mind. I'm not trying to completely diminish what he did as either. Like, I want to make sure he gets his due as the guy who created the offense, which, frankly, you could say Lavelle Edwards created the offense kind of at BYU because they kind of took everything that BYU did and put it in a different way. But the air raid being what it is, like Hal Mumme deserves a lot of credit for that with Leach on his side helping him. But Leach's success at Texas Tech sparked a revolution in the sport because now the air raid was not just this thing of like, it's a gimmick offense where it helps a couple bad teams win some games, but they're never going to be much of anything. Like, Texas Tech got good. Like, they were a consistent top 25 team under Leach. They were having 9-win seasons. Obviously, 2008, the upset over top-ranked Texas, the Harold to Crabtree play, that play took the air raid from being kind of this interesting, fun novelty to like, oh, crap, no, you can do stuff with this. And there was both a trickle-down and a trickle-up effect that you saw. The trickle-down was you have the state of Texas, which is one of the most important recruiting states in the country, a state that had long been dominated by I formation, power football across the board. All of a sudden, a lot of programs started seeing, man, going 4 wide and slinging it around the yard seems pretty beneficial as well. And the way that they did it, the way you practiced it, the way you packaged it, the way that you taught your players through the reps-based standpoint, like the air raid practice, Leach and Mumme would tell you that was the best thing they did is they practiced, how they practiced because of what it taught their players. That carried down to the high school level because it was easily applicable. And they were also very open to just teach guys how to do it. Very soon, this style of attack spreads across the state of Texas. So now you have wide receivers, quarterbacks, offensive linemen, who their high school careers, they're not being taught pro-style offense. They're not being taught I formation. They're learning how to run the air raid. Well, talented players getting up to the college level, if you're a coach, you got to figure out how to use those guys. So more and more programs across the board started implementing air raid style concepts and implementing some air raid philosophies of what they did. And you started to see the spread revolution more across the sport from a pass game standpoint. That also affected the next level because it's the same thing. Once this starts running rampant across college football, hey, guess where the NFL gets its players from? College. So when you have guys that all they've been doing their entire careers from high school through college is playing spread, pass-happy football, you apply it to the NFL as well. Bruce Feldman did a great piece talking about, I believe it was Feldman. If I'm miscrediting, I apologize, but I believe it was Feldman. Patrick Mahomes and the decision he had to make, going to Texas Tech and choosing to play football over baseball. If Texas Tech had never had the success they did under Leach, Texas Tech never hires Cliff Kingsbury as head coach, and Patrick Mahomes probably does not end up playing college football at Texas Tech, playing in that offense, and then going to the next level. He probably becomes a baseball player elsewhere. Like the air raid had an impact. Like the guy who's the best quarterback in the NFL right now is from this tree and is directly related to Mike Leach because of that. Or I guess indirectly, but it ties all together. But, I mean, the impact was even before that. The Patriots, when they got Wes Welker, who played for Leach at Tech, they had to figure out how to use him. And they went to Leach to figure out how to use him, and they started putting in a lot of their plays. Like, the football that you guys got to know and love throughout the 2010s is a direct result of what Mike Leach accomplished at Texas Tech. Now, obviously, football, it's cyclical. It's starting to shift back the other direction. But the spread passing game is never going to fully go away. And you can thank Mike Leach for that, because if they don't have the success that he does, it never takes off the way it ultimately did. He is one of the most important coaches to have ever coached. And you look at his coaching tree and the guys that have come off of that and all the success that they've had. It's just a ridiculous impact. The guy is a Hall of Fame coach, no question about it. And we deserve to see him enshrined at the College Football Hall of Fame forever.